Hello, welcome to News Now on TV360. I am Fidelia Aguncha. The Nigerian police force has released an update on its investigation into the deadly attack in Birkin-Ladi communities in Plateau State. The police says it has arrested 11 suspects in the North Central State. Police spokesperson Jima Mashood in a statement said the 11 suspects are now in police custody and helping with investigations. Mashood also revealed that 8 suspects have been arrested in Benue State. The suspects include a serving councillor and a livestock guard member in the North Central State. Borno State Governor Kashim Shettima has declared that insurgency in the northeastern part of the country is largely over. Shettima made this announcement during an interview with State House correspondents after meeting the Chief of Staff to the President, Abba Kyari, behind closed doors at the presidential villa in Abuja. He said current situations in the troubled part showed that there was cause for celebration. He added that although there could be some hiccups, the situation was better when compared to that of 3 years ago.
The ongoing insurgency problem is largely over. Yes, we might be having some hiccups, but when you compare the past to just the present, we have every cause to celebrate. We have pockets of the insurgents in islands along the Lake Chad and in the Sambisa forest. But when you juxtapose the sorry state of affairs 3-4 years ago and the current state we are in, I think there is cause for celebration. Honestly, there is no cause for alarm. I believe it shall soon be over once and for all.
Meanwhile, President Muhammadu Buhari's Special Assistant on Media and Publicity, Garba Shehu, has blamed corrupt politicians for the incessant killings in the country. Shehu said that the politicians involved were those who no longer had access to loot public treasury. He said that such politicians were bent on taking the shine out of the Buhari-led administration. According to him, Buhari is being attacked, especially because he has unleashed on the country a war against corruption. Now, a group known as Citizens Action to Take Back Nigeria, CATBAN, has stormed the National Assembly complex in mass, protesting against the adjustments made in the 2018 Appropriation Act by the legislature. The protesters are calling for the resignation of Senate President Bukola Saraki. They were, however, denied access by security operatives who shut the main entrance into the complex. Our correspondent, Tunji Oye, has more.
Another day of protest here in Abuja, the nation's capital. The National Assembly is at the receiving end today. For hours, there is no entry or exit from the National Assembly as protesters blocked the main gate. In a sit-out protest by a coalition of civil society groups, young men, women, artisans, and even some women with their children lay siege to the National Assembly complex, preventing vehicular movement. This is not just a sit-out, and you may not be wrong if you also call it a sleep-out too, as some women literally lie down at the entrance of the National Assembly. But what exactly is the reason for this protest?
They are padding the budget for their own self. The constituency projects they talk about, we don't see them anywhere. So the padding of the budget is not in the interest of the masses. Even if you are saying you are not a rubber stamp agency, your duty is to scrutinize the budget. Your duty is to make sure that what is in the budget is in line with prudent management of finances. It's in line with efficient management of finances. Not to go and make a bogus budget and then go behind and begin to corrupt public servants, begin to negotiate with heads of agencies and ministries to collect bribes and kickbacks and so on and so forth.
These people went to the extent of knowing how to manipulate the system, manipulate the executive by proposing that they should, in their own way, increase the benchmark. Increasing that benchmark meaning, okay, let us raise the bar so that the excess money that will be realized, we have it. National Assembly has about 170 billion, which is separate from their own money. The usual money that goes to them. Now, under this situation, we investigated. We discovered that not even the same people know about, the entire members or senators are aware of this 170 billion.
Our aim is for them to come out to tell the Nigerian the reason why they are inserting illegal money into our budget. We are totally against it. So what we are hoping is that for them to come and to plead with us, because we are not going to accept it. It's illegal.
Not only the alleged padding of the 2018 budget is the reason for this protest. The protesters seem to have issues with the leadership of the National Assembly, especially the Senate President, Bukola Saraki.
I am calling on the Senate President and the leadership of the Senate to resign because they have failed.
Yes, sir.
And the Senate should equally stop dabbling into security issues, since it is very clear that they don't have the interests of the people at heart. They are not interested about the unity schools because their children are not there. Yes. They are not interested about the general security of the people because they drive bulletproof cars. The news is no longer alien to you that the Senate President has turned himself into an instrument against the state. Without missing words, I would say he has turned himself into an instrument of terrorism. To be associated with armed robbers and armed robbery attacks is indeed a very poor thing to reason.
These Nigerians are calling for the resignation of the Senate President and have vowed to continue this protest until he vacates his seat. Will this protest yield the desired fruit? Will the Senate President vacate his seat? Time surely will provide answer to these questions. From Abuja, Sunjoye, TV360 News.
In Lagos, the State Police Command has intercepted a truck loaded with 30 cartons of 100 milligram tramadol capsules. The State Police Commissioner Imohime Edgo, who disclosed this on Wednesday, said the capsules were neatly concealed under some vehicle spare parts. He also assured that the command will not cease in the clampdown of drug traffickers until the state is rid of hard drugs.
On the 29/6/2018 at about 07:30 hours, a team of policemen attached to our Trade Fair Division, while on stop and search, intercepted a Scania 220 truck with registration number FST 450D, loaded with 30 cartons of tramadol 100 mg capsules, neatly concealed under motor spare parts. The driver of the truck, one Igwe Ejike male of number 2 Greenland Street, Olorun Shogo, Badagry, and his conductor, one Stephen Osita, were also arrested for further investigation. Of course, I don't need to repeat the fact that we must do all we can to protect our neighborhoods, protect our children from access to illicit drugs, and of course, the effects of taking these illicit drugs.
The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Mahmood Yakubu, is still complaining about the poor collection of permanent voters' card. Yakubu, in a chat with journalists, lamented that only 500,000 voters' cards have been collected since the end of the 2015 general elections. He also reiterated that 7 million PVCs are yet to be claimed and also added that they will be available for collecting until the 2019 general election.
We have told the nation that we have a little over 7 million uncollected PVCs from the 2015 general elections. These figures came from INEC. We have also given the breakdown of the uncollected PVCs on state-by-state basis, of which Lagos has the highest number of uncollected PVCs of 1.4 million. The Commission has consistently operated on a policy that the PVCs will be made available for collection and not distribution. And the two are different. If we are to distribute, in no time we will have no PVC line in any INEC office. But it means that some people may collect by proxy and the cards may end up in actually the wrong hands. So we place the onus on the registrars to come forward and collect the PVCs. Have we made progress with the collection since 2015? Not much. As at the 14th of June, a little over 500,000 PVCs have been collected. A little over 500,000. But let me say categorically that the Commission is not planning to ban the uncollected PVCs. There was a report I read attributed to one of our resident electoral commissioners that INEC intends to ban the PVCs. There is no intention to ban the PVCs.
Meanwhile, ahead of the Ekiti governorship polls, security agencies have agreed to jointly deploy 30,000 personnel to enhance adequate security during the July 14 polls. The police public relations officer in the state, Caleb Ikechukwu, said this in the state capital, Ado-Ekiti, on Monday. Other than the police, security operatives from the Nigeria Immigration Service, Civil Defense, Directorate of Security Services, Nigeria Prison Service, and the Federal Road Safety Commission will be deployed for the election. Ikechukwu assured that none of those to be deployed for election purposes would be armed, adding that all security agencies have been told to be at least 500 meters away from every polling booth. The National University Commission has presented provisional license to a Kano-based private university, Skyline University, Nigeria. The presentation comes more than a month after the Federal Executive Council approved a license for the university. The Minister of Education, Adamu, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Sunday Echeno, said the approval of Skyline University, Nigeria, brings the number of private universities in the country to 75.
The ceremony taking place today is yet another indication of the continued mutual partnership between government and the private sector in the provision of quality university education in Nigeria. It is taking place barely 6 months after licenses were issued to 6 private universities, which were again approved in December of last year, as earlier mentioned by the ESNUC. Therefore, I'm happy to note that the approval of Skyline University Nigeria brings the number of private universities in the country to 75.
In his remarks, the proprietor of Skyline University Nigeria, Kamal Puri, promised to ensure the highest standard of learning, especially in the areas of science and technology.
Education is changing in 21st century. You know, my experience, 32 years in education, and that too on global basis. I have run British, Americans, all education I have run. Being an Asian, I understand Middle East, Africa. I understand the whole world on education. We want to assure you, we will not leave any stone unturned. We will bring the best technology. We will bring the best curriculum, whatever. We will follow your all rules and regulation. And we as a family, all of us will make it sure that we lift education as much as possible.
You're still watching News Now on TV360. Up next is News and Business right after this break.
You're welcome to Business News. I am Esther Vese. President Muhammadu Buhari has written to the Nigerian Senate to confirm the approval of his nomination for Lashodun Shinobi as the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The letter was read by the Senate President Bukola Saraki after a 1-hour closed-door session upon his resumption on Tuesday. Now, before his appointment on June 8, Shinobi was the Managing Director of the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System, PLC, NIBBS, which is a financial payment facilitation and settlement platform which has been instrumental to the growth in electronic payments in the Nigerian financial industry. Before assuming the headship of NIBBS in 2012, Shinabi gained decades of executive-level experience in financial service operations, notably as Executive Director at the Union Bank of Nigeria plc, Renaissance Securities Nigeria Ltd, and EcoBank Nigeria plc. In other news, 49 of the 55 members of the African Union have signed the African Continental Free Trade Area AfCFTA agreement. However, Nigeria led a list of 6 other countries that failed to sign the deal. A minimum of 22 ratifications are required to enable the AfCFTA to come into force, while 15 ratifications are required for the Protocol on Free Movement of Persons, Right of Residence, and Right of Establishment. The AfCFTA, according to the African Union, will be the largest free trade area since the formation of the World Trade Organization. It could create an African market of over 1.2 billion people with a GDP of $2.5 trillion, according to the Pan-African Bloc. The African Union said the deal was expected to improve the economic prosperity of the African nations, removing barriers of trade like tariffs and import quotas, allowing free flow of goods and services between its members. Reactions have continued to trail the Brookings Institute report, which says Nigeria has overtaken India as the country with the largest population of people living in extreme poverty. The report estimates that over 87 million of Nigeria's nearly 200 million population live in extreme poverty. Now, this accounts for 45% of the total population, while India, with a population of 1.3 billion, is estimated to have 73 million living in poverty. Now, this next report explains what it means for Nigeria and the government's fight against poverty. Nigeria's economy has gone through tough times in the past few years, slipping into recession in August 2016 owing to a drastic drop in global oil prices. But things are gradually improving since the country came out of recession in September 2017. From a record high of over 18%, inflation is now at 11.6%, the lowest since February 2016. And there are indications it could still trend downwards. First quarter GDP growth rate in 2018 was 1.95%, but the government is targeting a 3.5% by the end of the year. Added to that, there is now some stability in the country's forex market, and the forex reserve is now at $47.6 billion. Nigeria has also been spending big on infrastructure, and just recently, the president signed the country's record 9.1 trillion naira budget into law, which would see a further injection of funds into infrastructure. Despite all these, the Brookings Institute report indicates Nigeria still has a big fight against poverty on its hands. It says Nigeria's extreme poor are now 87 million, the highest in the world. But Nigeria's Minister of Trade, Industry and Investment insists there is no cause for alarm.
We need to understand when we get these reports that there are reports that are lagging indicators, which means that people are reporting on history. There are reports that are leading indicators, which means they're forward-looking. And of course, there are reports that generally capture like what you do, which is current, which is why the fourth estate is so important, because you're actually dealing with information that is current. So when you get reports from Brookings Institute, all these sort of people, you need to look at the context. I mean, somebody may have written a report when we're in recession. Remember that if you're in recession, what it means is that even though your population is growing, people don't stop procreating because there's recession. Your growth is flat, which means that in theory, depending on how they run those numbers, you'll be going the other way. There is absolutely no question that there is an urgency to create employment in Nigeria, and it has to be a collective responsibility. What I can tell you with certainty based on one's background in business and in economics is that if you complete the things we're doing on infrastructure and you implement these reports we're doing, that's what I mean by a leading indicator. Poverty will go down. There's no magic to it. But you have to do it first. You have to put in the infrastructure. You have to implement the economic program, which is what will create the opportunities. They don't drop from the sky. So I think we should roll up our sleeves as a people and do the work. Because if we don't do it, and our people continue to bear children, obviously they'll get poorer. So I don't think we should kid ourselves that poverty is something that just happens. I think it comes out of the urgent need we have as a country, which is why we are focusing it as a government to make sure that we create the enabling environment, the infrastructure, and the things that are required to create opportunities for our people. And I believe that will definitely happen in the process of time.
But not everyone shares the minister's view. Investment banker and financial analyst Johnson Chukwu believes that the report should raise some concerns.
I wouldn't know why anybody will doubt those figures. I mean, the figures speak for themselves. If you look at it, simple economics says that if your GDP rate is growing at below your population growth rate, your income level, the average income level, will continue to decline. We've seen a GDP growth in the past 2-3 years at rate below the population growth. From 2015, we saw a GDP growth rate that declined below the population growth rate. And it's expected that that will be sustained to the date to 2026. What that means is that unless something changes, the level of poverty will continue to worsen. We had a GDP to GDP per capita in 2014 at about $3,500. Today, we're dealing with a GDP per capita about $1,640. What that means is that in terms of average income of Nigerians, we've seen a major devaluation, almost halving. It has almost halved. Again, our population, last year, our GDP grew by 0.83%. Our population grew by about 2.6, 2.7%. So in effect, the population is growing at more than 4 times the GDP growth rate. So I wouldn't know why anybody is disputing that. We were already a poor country, and then we're increasing our population rate at a speed that is far above at which we're expanding our economic activities.
Chukwu then highlights 3 main areas the government should focus on, not just to improve the economy, but the lives of Nigerians.
One factor, address the quality of human capital development. Go back to the educational system, address the coverage, address the quality, right from nursery school to the university level. Address the orientation of the educational system, move your educational system from a liberal and oriented education system to what today leads the world, which is STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. That is where everybody has gone to. We need to address that. Technology is leading the world. 2, address the issue of infrastructure gap. You cannot fund it because you don't have the economic resources to do that. We need to review the framework for fund infrastructure to bring in private capital into it. And the third factor, like I said, that the exigencies of the moment has made it imperative. We add the third factor is that we must, as a matter of urgency, address the issue of homeland security, internal security in the country.
There is no question that the Nigerian economy is growing, but how to translate the growth to real development has always been the issue. The criteria used by the Brookings Institute in gathering data for its report might not be truly reflective and representative. Poverty is sure still a big problem in Nigeria. Recording another bearish run, the equities market closed Tuesday's trading session with a 0.90% decline in key market indicators, but the all-share index dropping by 37,605 basis points. The market's capitalization closed at 13.622 trillion naira, now accounting for almost 50% of the total value of shares traded. The top traders chart was dominated by Multiverse, Zenith Bank, Guarantee Trust Bank, and Access Bank, with over 100 million, 16 million, 13 million, and 12 million shares traded respectively. The percentage laggards were led by Nestle, Mobil, Lafarge Africa, that's WAPCO, and Dangote Cement. Their share prices closed at 1,510 naira, 190 naira, 39 naira 45 copper, and 222 naira 8 copper respectively. Conversely, the percentage gainers were led by Better Glass, Unilever, Nigerian Breweries, and Red Star Express, closing at 90 naira 45 copper, 55 naira, 113 naira 9 copper, and 6 naira 5 copper respectively. Well, in summary, the Nigerian Stock Exchange closed today's trading session with a total of 257.389 million shares, worth 2.647 billion naira, being transacted in 3,932 deals. And that ends business news tonight. The rest of the news continues with Fidelia.
Corruption not in my country.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, madam.
My name is Alero. I am not sick. I just need you to help put your stamp on this medical report. I want to tender it at my office as a sick leave. I'll pay 10,000 naira.
Ma'am, that is impersonation. I'm not a doctor.
Oga, be like say this English no go pay. I go increase the money to 20,000 naira. I beg. You know, if I give you that 20,000, as you wide, so if it still help your condition more. So you know, say you spread well.
As I spread like virus, I'll be.
You talk. Come
out! If person come your hospital, talk say make you give am fake medical report, make you go take collect sick leave. Talk and say no, na corruption, not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Stop corruption now.
The Italian government has pledged to provide 12 boats to Libya in the fight against human trafficking and illegal migration. Some European Union nations are pressuring Libya to take charge of migrant rescues in the Mediterranean. One of the government officials said in a statement that the measures was adopted during a cabinet meeting so as to strengthen the operational capacity of the Libyan Coast Guard and also ensure the proper management of the migrant situation in the sea. The statement added that the Italian government will also take responsibility for the maintenance of the 12 boats until the end of the year and offer training to the Libyan Coast Guard and naval authorities. The South Sudan's government has proposed a bill to extend President Salva Kiir's term for 3 years, discouraging peace talks with opposition forces who condemned the move as illegal. The lawmakers said the bill seeks to amend the constitution to extend Kiir's tenure to 2021. Deputy Paul Bonjo also said that the bill was presented on Monday to Parliament and that lawmakers intended to vote it into law this month. The world's youngest nation, which gained independence from Sudan in 2011, erupted into violence in late 2013 over a political disagreement between Kiir and his former vice president, Riek Machar. Since the beginning of this war, tens of thousands of people have been killed, leaving more than 3 million others displaced. To sports now, the Enugu State Police Command has released Pa Mikel Obi, the father of Super Eagles captain Mikel Obi, from kidnappers. The police said Mikel's father was on his way from Jos Plateau State when he was abducted. The spokesman of the command, Ebere Amaraizu, in a statement released on Monday, stated that Pa Obi and his driver, John Ishaya, were abducted along Makodi-Enugu Road on June 29. He added that the kidnappers demanded 10 million naira as ransom from Obi's family. Mikel has revealed that his father was in kidnappers' custody during the Russia 2018 World Cup clash between Nigeria and Argentina last Tuesday. The Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, is at the verge of losing some of its sponsors following the latest twist in the leadership of the Glass House. On Monday, the Minister of Youth and Sports, Solomon Dalong, in a statement asked Amaju Pinnick to obey a Supreme Court ruling and vacate the office for Chris Giwa. Pinnick, in response, insisted that his removal from office was null and void. In a tweet on Tuesday, former media officer of the Super Eagles, Colin Udo, said sponsors were monitoring the situation closely. Nigeria risks a FIFA ban if Pinnick is forced out of office. FIFA regulation warns against external interference in football matter, and a ban will affect preparation for the 2018 African Women Cup of Nations and 2019 African Cup of Nations. Sweden have become the 7th team to qualify for the World Cup quarterfinals. The Europeans defeated Switzerland 1-0 on Tuesday to advance to the last 8. Emil Hosberg scored the only goal of the game. The Swedes will face the winner of the tie between England and Colombia in the quarterfinal. Well, that's been News Now on TV360. Do log on to our website at www.tv360nigeria.com for news updates and other interesting programs. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel at TV360 Nigeria to get daily updates and follow us on social media. The handles are being displayed on your screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.